Gentlemen, ready? Welcome to this Planning Commission. The date is Monday, February 27th. Will everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. You may be seated. The first item of tonight is the actual approval of the agenda. Does anybody have any comments? If no, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, move to approve the agenda.
Second.
Motion second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Moving on to actual approval of the minutes for the February 13th, 2012 meeting. Does anybody have any changes that they would like to make? Any concerns at all?
Mr. Chairman, move to approve.
We have a motion second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Very good. Moving on is for the public hearing is the first item is for Hennepin Village Site B. The location of the project is 10127 and 9735 Eden Prairie Road. The request is for planned unit development concept review on 71.5 acres, a planned unit development district review on 71.5 acres, a zoning district change from rural to R1-13.5 on 24.37 acres, and a preliminary plat of 71.5 acres into 52 lots and 3 outlots. With that being said, with the proponent of the project, please come forward. State your name, spell your last name for city record, and tell us a little bit about your project.
Good evening. My name is Alex Martin, 1440 Steeplechase Lane, Eagan, Minnesota, 55122. Again, my name is Alex Martin. I'm the Division Vice President for Toll Brothers here in Minneapolis. I manage all of our development and construction activities here in Minneapolis. What you have before you is our newest project here for the Twin Cities, which is Hennepin Village Site B. As you can see from the plan, we're proposing to subdivide the property into 52 single-family detached lots with an additional lot for an amenity package, which will include a pool house, pool, and tot lot. About 24 of the acres will be used for development of the total 72. The balance of the property will be dedicated to the city for either right-of-way, Prospect Road, or park area. The homes will range anywhere from about 3 to 4,000 plus square feet, and base probably around 600s, in the 600s. Timing, we're planning to hopefully gain approvals this spring, break ground in June, open up for sale in the fall, and start delivering homes fall of 2013. Toll Brothers, a little bit about it if you guys are unaware. Toll Brothers is a national publicly traded home builder. We currently operate in 20 states, including Minneapolis. We've catered to a different crowd than a typical production builder. We in particular build homes for a move-up or an empty nester buyer. We typically cater to a luxury demographic. These homes will be built, like I said, 3,000 to 4,200 square feet, but ultimately they'll be able to be optioned up to what a buyer deems as their wants and needs. We basically allow buyers to change the home architecturally, bump them out, make them bigger, finish basements, as well as modify exterior items. All the homes will have some form of a masonry exterior, i.e. stone or brick, then to be finished off with either James Hardie siding, a fiber cement product, or stucco. Pretty excited about the project. I know the site has been batted around since 2002. I think Toll Brothers and the plan we have is the right fit for the project. I think it preserves a lot of the natural attributes of the site, which is topography and trees. I know a lot of the previous plans really just planed the site down to an even flat surface. We're taking into account a lot of the undulation and the hills, peaks, and valleys of the site. So we're pretty excited about it. This project as a whole, from our perspective, we'd be more than happy to answer any questions. We do have a representative from McCombs, Franks, Roos & Associates, which is a project engineer on the site if you have any more technical questions. But that's it, unless you guys have some questions.
No, we'll get back to you. Thank you
Great,
very much.
Thank you so much.
Mr. Franzen, do you want to take us through the staff report, please?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. This site has had some history in front of the Commission and Council starting back in 2001 when the city looked at the master plan for Hennepin Village, which was 250 acres. And this site B, being the last site at that time, was planned for 160 to 180 townhouses, basically similar to the product that you see in the other sites that are on the other side of the creek. And there also was contemplation at that time for dedication of the creek corridor with this project, of which 43 acres is being set aside and given to the city for park and open space purposes. Part of the approval in 2001 talked about a road going across the creek. It wasn't named until later, which was called Prospect Road. And after the Oak Creek at Hennepin Village project received a preliminary approval in 2006 for 100 units, the city did a voluntary environmental assessment worksheet for Prospect Road. And the City Council adopted a resolution in May that an environmental impact statement was not required. What we did with this project is we took a look at the location, the alignment of Prospect Road, to see that it matched with the alignment that we had in the EAW, and it does. Also back in 2007, the City Council looked at 6 different roadway alternatives in the area, and they selected, I can't remember if it was number 6 or what number it was, but it was Prospect Road, and that was going to be done with a culvert crossing over the creek. There are some developer obligations with this project that I'd like to go over with you. You go on to page 5 of the staff report, item number 6. We expect the developer to participate in improvements to Eden Prairie Road. There'll be a special assessment agreement with this as part of a development agreement with the project. Toll Brothers has an obligation to build Prospect Road, finish construction by September 1st, 2013. Toll Brothers also has an obligation to make sightline improvements. That was one of the items that came out of the EAW, was to take a look at the east side of Prospect Road to see what tweaks you could make in the road or the landscaping and the trees to make the sightlines work better. Item number 9 refers to construction access, and we reached a conclusion that we want the access to travel north. Before we start construction, we want the developer to take a look at the road and make any required sightline improvements or other minor improvements that our city engineer would require to have safe and efficient movement of cars and trucks going in and out of the area while they are removing dirt. Item number 10 refers to a little bit more right-of-way along Eden Prairie Road. There's a couple of curves in the alignment for future Eden Prairie Road that we want to flatten out. It's a better road in that particular stretch of the area. And lastly, item 11 would be to dedicate outlots A and B to the city, and that's the park and open space along the creek corridor.
Mr. Franzen, at this time, do you believe that you have in good faith a tentative agreement with all 11 of those with the proponent?
We do.
Okay. Very good. Commissioners, before I open this up to the public hearing, are there any comments that you'd like to make before we get started? Okay. Very good. With that being said, this is a public hearing. Can I just get just a little sense by raise of hand how many people plan on coming up to the microphone and speaking specifically about this tonight? Okay. With that being said, I'll be happy to hear your comments along with the commission, so feel free to come forward, state your name, spell your last name for city record, give us your address, and tell us a little bit about what your concerns are.
Good evening. My name is Jack Rohde. I live at 15859 Porchlight Lane in the Summit Oak section of Hennepin Village. I'm here as a homeowner in the Summit Oak development. I'm here also as the president of the Master Association of the Hennepin Village Board. And let me say, first of all, welcome, 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 Toll. And I say that because we will be so happy that Ryland will not be there. That's another issue. But as you may know, we have a significant lawsuit going against Ryland for its errors, miscues, and inattention in the development that it's already had. Our concern, as it has been from day one, is putting a road over the creek, extending Prospect Road from what it is. If you recall, before Ryland bowed out in its number one option, if you will, to pick up Site B, PEMTOM was here asking for approval to remove, and you've got the numbers in your record, all that dirt from Site B. Why remove all that dirt? Because they wanted more units. That's partly why I say, welcome, 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 Toll. And Toll had said, no, we don't plan to develop it that way. We're going to have fewer units. They're going to be single-family homes instead of rows of townhomes and other sorts of stuff. And that means a lot less traffic over there, but it doesn't need that road. That will destroy, you're going to go about destroying what Mother Nature created, and it's a beautiful place. Spring, or the creek and the water, when you live where we do, and if you happen to take Spring Road down to catch Flying Cloud Drive or go to the Lions Tap, you know what you always see at the well, at the pumps. That's people filling their containers with that wonderful spring water. And many of us are some of those that do that. And now, for the sake of a road, for more access to Eden Prairie Road, no question, Eden Prairie Road needs fixing and lots of it, and it's needed it for a long time. You'll jar your insides out if you drive more than 10 miles an hour on Eden Prairie Road the way it is now. It's a mess. Fine, it'll last another few years until it gets developed. And then you'll have a nice road, wider and better, and not so many wrinkles in it, if you will. But the big issue is destroying the valley, putting something over the creek. Now, well, in my day, they called it hardcover. In your day, they call it, impenetrable surface or something. And you know what I mean by that. That's anything that basically isn't where the water can't go through it. And in Summit Oaks, if you don't believe the density that is in our development, the hardcover that's there, you know what we have to do in the winter, last year when we had so much snow? We had to have the snow hauled off site because there wasn't any place to put it. And the city wouldn't let us put it down the hill, remove that one sign that's there at the end of Prospect Road right now. It says road closed, so that we could dump some of that down there. Last year alone, $33,000+ to move snow by truck, load it onto the front loader, onto the truck, and take it to a different site. And what the city's saying is, no, we can't let's put it there because the runoff from that would contaminate the creek. Well, what do you think is going to do to the creek if you build a road across the creek? Because it'll snow. It snows in the bottom of the valley just like it does on the top of the hill. And then you're going to be plowing that stuff off the road into the creek. We got a beautiful wetland down there. They don't make those much anymore. In fact, they probably don't make them at all unless there's an earthquake. And so what we're saying is we don't need that road. The damage, that road is absolutely unnecessary from a traffic flow. There's no good public reason to build that road. And if somebody raises the issue and says, well, wait a minute, we're supposed to have 2 entrances or exits to all these developments. There aren't 2 entrances and exits to all these developments. And if that was so important, we in Summit Oaks only have 1. And that was allowed on the premise that, oh, someday we'll build that bridge. And then the economy tanked. And then Ryling decided, no, we don't think we want to go over there. And we still have only one exit and entrance into Summit Oaks. And if that was such an important issue, why wasn't that dealt with at the beginning of the construction? There could have been two, but no, there's only one. There's still only one. And the only way you can see around that is to put a bridge over that gorgeous valley. I think that's dead wrong. And I suspect that's why the bulk of these people are here, with the possible exception of one or two, who don't want anything. They want all the traffic coming this way. And we think that's wrong. It's not the traffic issue. It's the destroying the valley. I'll entertain questions from you guys if you want to ask any.
Commissioners, do you have any questions for Mr. Rhodey at this time? Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Rhodey. Appreciate your time. Is there anybody else that would like to make any comments? Could you please state your name and spell your last name and address for city record, please?
My name is Deborah Hobeckstrom, Ho-Beckstrom as in Mary. And I'm here as agent on behalf of the Homeowners Association of Hennepin Village.
Thank you.
Thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. I'm here, as I've mentioned, as advocate for this association. I have been party to the management for this community since inception. And there are a couple of issues that we wish to speak to. Number one being the fact that we have existed with this community for over a decade without the extension of the road on Prospect. I realize that this was part of a master plan initially approved, but I would ask that the Planning Commission look at that again. If this community has been able to survive this long without it, I really do question the need to destroy the wildlife area there. Second of all, and more importantly, we really want to speak to the follow-up or the promises that have been made regarding the completion of the original plan. Since inception, the homeowners of this community, along with us as the management, and we have a number of pieces of documentation reflecting this, but this community of Hennepin Village Master Community was promised 2 pools. We currently have over 630 homes, 3,000 plus individuals, taxpayers, constituents of Eden Prairie who utilize 1 pool area. With the new development being excluded from being incorporated as part of the existing Hennepin Village Master Community, they will forfeit the 2nd pool. I would respectfully request that the Planning Commission review this and demand that the original plan be followed up and completed for these people that have been living in this community for 10 years without the 2nd pool. We budgeted for the 2nd pool. These homeowners have been promised it, and now they're expected to go without. Again, I agree with Jack and these other homeowners. The toll development seems to be a very logical, a very wonderful development, but we do need the 2nd pool. We need rec area, park space for the homeowners that are already in this community. So I complete my statement with that. Do you have any questions?
Commissioners?
Okay.
Nothing at this time. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We appreciate it. Is there anybody else that would like to come forward, make any comments regarding this project? Please state your name and your address, spell your last name for city record.
Good evening. My name is Dean Edstrom. My wife and I live at 10133 Eden Prairie Road, which is just at the top of the hill as you're going down Eden Prairie Road to what used to be 169. We've lived there for 38 years, and we, of course, have been through this process since 2001 and before. I'd just like to say that not all of the residents are opposed to Prospect Road. We think it's essential from a safety standpoint, and there are countervailing environmental concerns as well, I believe. The city studied this very carefully over a number of years and reached the conclusion this was the right solution for traffic in that area, particularly with development coming in. And if Prospect Road is not built, it'll put additional pressure on Eden Prairie Road, which Jack correctly characterized as being a bit of a mess or a disaster. But the problem is if Eden Prairie Road needs to be expanded in order to handle the traffic that's anticipated even from this reduced project, the amount of damage and cost associated with expanding Eden Prairie Road on the south end and taking it down to 169, which I know the city does not prefer to do from an engineering standpoint, would be a serious problem. So I think that while you can debate whether you like Prospect Road or not, I believe it needs to go in and support the road as being part of this project as it always has been characterized. And I'd only say that the people who live in Hennepin Village East bought their homes with the road on the map, so this is no great surprise. It's not like the city is springing something on them that they can oppose at this point. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your comment. Yes, ma'am. Please come forward. If you could state your name, spell your last name for city record, and give us your address, please, that would be great.
My name is Nancy Costells, Kostelliz. I reside in Summit Oaks at Hennepin Village, 9756 Gable Drive. And I just wish to comment to the gentleman that just spoke. Eden Prairie Road goes to Flying Cloud Drive, not to Highway 169.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there anybody else that has any comments?
Hi, my name is Chris Klein, Kline, 9700 Eden Prairie Road. So I'm right across from the development. I was wondering on the road alignment, I thought I should make a comment that the plan isn't finalized yet. There's preliminary. But if the Site B goes in and those houses are built and the sewer's pointing out, you know, that's pretty much done. You can't move that. So I think that the road should be the expansion of Eden Prairie Road and the right-of-ways and the final design plan coming around the creek should be finalized, because one time I was told that you know, the development will go in and then we'll do the road later. That's fine, but I think you should have the final for the road. So I guess my concern is that if you're going to take my property after the fact, that to have the right of way so you can put a 8-foot trail and a 3-foot border and extend the road 16 feet from the center line, that's not what I'm for. So I'd like to know if you're going to be needing my property at all to widen that road, and I don't agree with that. I think that they got so much area and room over there that they can do something else and adjust something, and without the final plan on the road, I don't see how the developer has stuff to work with. There's preliminary, but you know, that's, I think the creek crossing there and the final alignment and the grade, because there's a lot of topography issues to work with there, that should be finalized before the final approval on this plan. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. With that question right there, city staff, is there anyone that can talk specifically to Mr. Pine's address and give a little insight there?
I can answer that.
Thank you, Mr.
I have talked with Mr. Klein over the last couple of days and explained to him kind of where we're at with this. The alignment shift that we've asked for, or the additional right-of-way we've asked for on Eden Prairie Road, there's a number of reverse curves, I don't know, 3 or 4 or 5 in a row, right up by Prospect Road to the north. So that additional right-of-way will try to soften those curves and push the road actually further to the east, away from his property. And we have done enough, at this point, we've done enough preliminary engineering that we have a pretty good idea that we're going to, the construction limits will be right about on his property line, so even with the trail. So there'll be very little impact, if at all, on his property.
Mr. Klein's property. Okay. Thank you very much. Does anyone else have any comments specifically to the project at hand, which is the 52 lots and 3 outlets? Okay. Not seeing any commissioners. I have some questions, but I'm willing to hear yours. Does anyone have any comments? Go ahead, Jerry.
Okay. First of all, for the developer, on the backside of some of the lots along the creek bed, or along the creekway, there's a pretty significant retaining wall. And in fact, in some places, I think it's 16 feet high, in other places 14 feet high. How do you propose to protect the community with that sort of a drop-off with the retaining wall in the backyards?
Sure. Part of it's done with grading. The point behind the retaining walls is to keep us from having to grade further into the tree line and preserve trees. I think the biggest concern as we've worked with the city was more about water and soil erosion. Mm-hmm. So all of the lots, I use the term bioswale, so there has to be a soil barrier, if you will, that will serve more as a curb stop to collect the water as it goes downhill. And we are putting in storm sewer behind each lot. So it'll be hard pipe. We're currently working with engineering on whether to pass that laterally from south to north and then drop it into the storm water system going down Prospect Road, or pass it through the front of the lots and into the storm system. So the goal is to contain all of the water on site or move it off site and not allow it to road down the backside on the east side off the bluff there.
Yeah, my concern is for people, though, that'll be going into the backyards, that they don't fall off a 16-foot cliff.
Right. I believe all walls over 4 feet require a rail. So either way, there'll be a rail system above.
Some kind of rail system. Okay.
Biggest, easiest one I can equate to, you may have seen recently, is the Vintage on Riverview Road going toward 169. Charles Cudd did the development with Wooddale. They have a similar circumstance. Their walls are actually quite a bit higher. They did basically a wrought iron or aluminum rail safety fence. So it's not a split rail that someone can easily fall through. It's I think it's a 42-inch tall fence with proper spacing to ensure people don't either go through or get their head stuck. So
right.
From a safety perspective, absolutely, that's paramount. Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
While we have the proponent up at the microphone, does anyone else have any comments? Go ahead. Travis.
Yeah, I guess I have a question on the pool. There was some concern about the pool being included or not being included within the existing rest of the Hennepin Village. Just wanting to know, because I thought I saw some sort of pool or some sort of congregation area on the plan, what the inclusive rights are for existing homeowners within the rest of the association.
Correct. It is currently not our intention to have Site B rolled into the larger Hennepin Village HOA. The primary logic behind it is when you look through the documents, which are several inches thick, there's a provision there that basically states and cuts this expiration date on when the homeowners association can accept new property. By the time our pool and pool house goes in, that date would have come and gone. So that's problem one. Problem two, going through the budget, again, this is coming from Ryland and Pempton, it sounds as though it was never budgeted for in the long term, nor were there any kind of facilities set up to maintain it through the HOA, which is problem two. Problem three is that ultimately it would be a cost to all 600 members to have our site into their HOA. Toll Brothers communities, if you've looked at our landscape plan, there's a lot of trees. Part of that's reforestation, but I can be quite frank, we would have planted those regardless. There's several outlots that will be there, as well as a pool and pool house, which will all require significant costs to maintain, as well as someday replace. HOA budgets don't just require the day-to-day maintenance, but someday to replace 400 trees, to replace those retaining walls you just asked about, to replace the pool, pool house, and tot lot. So unfortunately, between the lack of a vehicle for us to enter into the HOA, coupled with the perceived negative impact of raising the entire subdivision's cost, Hennepin Village, We have decided, which we are contractually obligated to provide access to the remainder side of the site, that it really makes sense to sell seasonal passes. We unfortunately can't set it up in a traditional homeowners association vehicle because the documents weren't written correctly for that, unfortunately. So being the last one into a larger master plan, it unfortunately fell to our laps. But Ryland and Pempton both did a good job in making sure, one, what we were building, they stipulated requirements, which is what you see on the plan, a certain size pool house, pool, and tot lot, as well as a dollar amount associated with it. We're on the hook for a certain dollar amount that we have to at least spend, which I can promise you what's on that plan well exceeds that. And then ultimately we'll be providing season passes based on working with the fire marshal and some other entities to ensure what is true capacity. And that way people can choose to spend money and say, yes, I do want to go to the Site B as opposed to, I believe it's in Site C, amenity package. And that way they can pay a justifiable amount on a limited basis. But that's something, unfortunately, it sounds like it wasn't managed well up front, and we're kind of managing through it the best we can.
So just to be clear, the people that will move into Site B will have free access to the pool and the clubhouse and everything else that's associated there. Is that correct or not correct?
Not free. They're going to have to pay whatever their pro rata share of the operating and overhead expenses.
Okay, so that'll be the season pass for both B and for A.
Seasonal passes for A and the others. Our site will, making the numbers up, if it's $100,000 operating expense, that divided by our 52 units is what's going to subsidize the cost of that.
I understand.
And then in a traditional sense, we'll be under a traditional association-maintained community. But again, there's not a vehicle with the current documents the way they're set up to have us even enter in, even if we so choose to. The Site B, or sorry, the Site A and the balance of Hennepin Village will have options to purchase limited season passes. Those have not been decided yet because a lot of it's dependent upon parking, upon capacity, upon so many variables. We haven't quite got to that point, but we have spoke to the management company. It's our intention to meet with the board as well as management company to try to find a way to reconcile that. But that is our plan going forward.
Understood. Okay. Does anybody else at this time have any questions for the proponent? Okay.
Great, thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Franzen, let's talk a little bit about, or what the city's obligation is for Site A and Pempton and the pool that never came about, that was in the plans. Can the city do anything?
All projects enter into a development agreement that's signed by the developer, the owner, and the city, mayor and the city manager. And in that agreement, there's a list of requirements that are part of the text. There's a list of requirements that end up in the plan. So in this plan, they show a pool and they show a clubhouse. And they show landscaping and streets and lights and grading and drainage. What we do is we inspect this project after it's done to make sure that they built it in accordance with the approved plan. How it's being used, that's up to that particular association and whatever relationship they want to have with the other associations for how that pool and that clubhouse would be used.
So in Site A, was part of the development agreement 2 pools?
That I don't recall. I know they have a pool and a clubhouse, which is just off of Charleston Road. That's what I recall was part of the plan.
Mm-hmm. How can we get more definition around that? You've got a lot of people, and I saw, the emails and everything else, to be able to find out specifically what's in the development agreement, what these people can expect, what the city can do to help.
So we can go back and look at the line items in the development agreement and the actual development agreement plans. I only recall there being 1 pool and 1 clubhouse.
Yes, please come forward. Thank you, Mr. Franzen.
As I mentioned,
Can you just state your name? You don't have to do anything else.
Deborah Hobeckstrom.
Thank you.
And as management agent. I've been in this industry for 37 years, and the specialty for my company is homeowners association. I lobbied for the current legislation that these communities are governed under and understand it very thoroughly. When this development was being sold to the homeowners, they were promised the second pool. The initial budgeting, we were required by Ryland to incorporate enough in the budget for 2 pools, along with the reserve. planning for 2 pools. It is a burden for Site A to have 1 pool for 630 homes. While the developer for the entire plan may be completing their requirements under the master plan and commitment, by having 2 pools with 2 separate communities, it is simply really not meeting the commitment in my eyes. I understand that time may have passed by the time they would finish the pool to incorporate into the community, but they do have the time to do that now. By saying that the homeowners in Hennepin Village Master Association would be entitled to purchase seasonal passes is really not adequate, because it doesn't allow the community the right to govern that recreation facility. And they would be paying for it in a very different manner. Having 1 pool for 52 homes versus 630 does not seem to me to be a good balance or commitment for the plan that they had provided to the city. This is up for you to judge, but this is simply not fair.
So if I'm understanding correctly, then, and by the way, I mean, this really isn't the proponent at hand's necessarily problem or issue. I mean, the issue happened way before this company stepped forward and decided to build on that property. But with that being said, with the second pool being put in, so one can surmise that through the development agreement there's 2 pools, even though they're in 2 different areas, there's 2 pools, we reached our obligations, we're done. Is that kind of what I'm understanding?
If it's part of the plan that they show us, and we expect them to build, we expect there to be a pool and a clubhouse on this property.
The original plan.
The original plan for Site B probably may have had a pool. I'd have to go back and check.
Right.
Yeah, and I mean,
I
conversely...
mean, it does have on it right now. I mean, the Plan B definitely does.
In
have it.
addition, in 2008, Ryland required that we send out a survey to the homeowners, and they hosted a gathering with the owners that had already completed their purchase within the community. And the purpose for that meeting was for them to gather information as to what the homeowners would like to do with this $400,000 commitment that was supposed to be met for a rec area. And Ryland told them that if the second pool wasn't going to be built, they were going to enhance the current rec area they had. And that promise has never been followed up on, although we have attempted on several occasions to pursue that. In light of that, what we were continually told was that, you know, they couldn't say, or it couldn't really happen until PEMTOM would complete the sale of the property. So, you know, I just really would ask that you reconsider this.
Thank you very much. Yes, Mr. Rhodey, you may come forward.
The bulk of the Hennepin Village owners live on the other side of Spring Road, as you well know. There is absolutely no place. You couldn't put a one-person phone booth in Summit Oaks. There isn't room for it. There's obviously not room for a pool there, and the bulk of the people live on the other side. And if you don't think that one pool for those people is just for all of those tax-paying Eden Prairie folk on the other side is enough, it's not. Go over, well, now you can't, but you ought to see, ask some of these people, on any nice day, though that pool is so packed, you got body to body. It's not fair. You can't let Ryland off the hook. You can't do that. It's unfair to all of these homeowners. They've been patient, and Ryland has been almost obstructionist. Don't do that.
So, Mr. Rhodey, what are you asking this commission to do specifically?
I'm asking that we're saying Ryland owes it to us. They owe us a second pool. That's the issue.
Right.
And if Ryland gets off the hook, then we'll probably have to take other action.
And I
But
think
it's not fair for the council to say, well, they can, and I understand what he says. Hey, we're going to be open with, we'll let these people use the pool.
Right.
But that isn't the main issue. The other one I forgot to mention when I was up here
Yes,
was
sir.
if you put a road in, and with sidewalk along that road, down where Prospect Road stops now, into the valley, and up the other side, with a walking sidewalk, whatever, you know what you're going to have on that sidewalk, and you're going to have some real problems. What do kids like to do that have bicycles? You think of that? They're going to be scooting down there. You're going to have cars on that road. You're going to have kids whipping their bicycles down there, or their skateboards, or whatever else. We see it in the development now, all the time. But you're not right next to a road like that. Don't do that. Don't do that. When it comes back, when somebody gets hit or hurt or killed, you won't want to be in the spot where you raised your hand and said, yep, that's okay.
Thank you, sir. Yeah. Yes, Jerry, go ahead.
You know, I'm not sure that we have a clear enough understanding of the legal obligations of the development agreement to really say exactly what Toll's responsibility may be in taking over the development rights for this Section B of Hennepin Village. That there might be certain responsibilities that go with that we're not 100% clear on, at least that I'm not right now tonight. And I think we need to have a very clear understanding of what that is.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Franson, help us understand what kind of leverage, if any, this commission tonight, the city council, the city in general can have against Ryland Homes, the two pools. I know what we're discussing tonight is really a different project in general by Toll Brothers and putting in a new subdivision. Prospect Road happens to be a part of that, but again, the city council has already voted on Prospect Road going in. At this point, it's not necessarily up for debate. The road isn't built yet, so I guess anything could happen, but as far as the city council is concerned, they voted on it, they've already agreed on it, and that's what's going to happen. With that being said, what can we do about this Ryland issue?
The city only has developers have contractual obligation for what they signed for in the development agreement. So if Toll Brothers signs for this development agreement and the plan says they have a pool and the clubhouse, all we care about is it on the right lot? Is it built according to the design that they have in here? Is it built according to building and fire code requirements? And we basically check off that it's built in conformance with the approved plan. How it's used, that's a private party agreement. That's up to the association. We're not a party to any of the association documents.
Right.
Basically, the city stays clear out of all associations, whether they're business association or homeowners associations. They govern the use of their property within that area. They set aside funds for maintenance. They set aside for capital improvements. They set things aside for the reserve fund to make improvements to their siding, their windows, their garage doors, all those sorts of activities. And we're not party to that. So if we went back and look at each individual development agreement, we would find certain obligations. And since it's all been built, and we haven't filed anything against the other developers, Ryland Homes, Pemtown, that they haven't fulfilled their obligations, my guess is everything on the other side of the creek has been done in accordance with all the development agreements we have on record so far.
And as far as you're concerned, that is an accurate statement, that everything has been done up to the developer's agreement thus far.
I don't have any current knowledge of any defaults or deficiencies of any of the previous agreements on the property.
Is it possible that there are some?
It's possible. But usually what the city does, if you talk about all of the public roads, the city gets bonding for the roads. So we're not going to release the money until we've inspected the sewer and the water and the roads and the sidewalks. we're not going to release the surety for their landscaping improvements until we walk the site and make sure all the trees have been installed, the ones that have died have been replaced.
So if there was a loophole in this agreement, the loophole would be the building of the pool and the community center, whatever you want to call it, on Plan B, which is obviously in the plan right now.
My guess is that if we went back to the 2001 plan, they probably had an area set aside for some private clubhouse pool on this site. It was part of the proposal.
On Site A?
On Site B.
On Site B.
Site B. When Pentown brought it through, they still had that as part of their proposal. And then there was the debate about whether it was going to be on the north side of the road or whether it was going to be contained within the project area.
Right. Okay. Commissioners, do you have any comments in regards to this area before we move on?
Well, just speaking out loud a little bit about this, it seems like what I'm understanding is that potentially the letter of the agreements has been met, but potentially not the spirit of the agreements, at least in the eyes of the homeowners association in Hennepin Village right now. Is that?
I think that's a very good way of saying it. I mean, it's hard to see because I don't have the development agreement in front of me.
Right, and I know we don't have all of those details right in front of us, but it seems that in all likelihood the 2001 master plan had 2 pools in it, and in a sense, if you look at the total plan, assuming we go forward with the Toll Brothers plan, it would have 2 pools in it. But the spirit of the agreement, at least in the eyes of the existing homeowners, was that both of those pools would be accessible by all residents, and that, looking forward, may not be the case. I guess I'm just trying to kind of clarify.
That's the way I would probably see it too.
Am I on the right? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what to do about it, but
Please, please state your name and spell your last name.
Hi, I'm John, Jon Schuffer, Juffer. I live at 10028 Gentian Drive. And my wife and I, we purchased in spring of 2009, and at the sales center, I'm sure other residents can remember, they had the master plan of the lots and what was open and what had already been sold, and the swimming pool that's currently there and the tot lot. And at that time, the salesperson mentioned the second pool. He didn't set a firm date, but it was mentioned. And so, like other residents, the spirit was just not upheld. So just to reiterate, that was 2009. So they've been selling people basically 2 pools for 10 years. So that's my 2 cents.
And I think this commission and Commissioner Kirk said it more eloquently than I am saying it now, is I believe that to be true. I think we all probably do. The issue is how much of a part of that goes into tonight's discussion with Toll Brothers and in them developing part of the land and having them kind of come into the middle of all this. And what can the city do against Ryland Homes right now? And from what I'm hearing from city staff, they believe, at least for right now, that nothing has been unmet and that the agreement is what it is and that they met all those arrangements. Would that be accurate, Mr. Franzen?
Be accurate.
Okay. Yes, go ahead.
I'm uncomfortable without a legal opinion myself
Okay.
to clearly understand what responsibilities Toll has taken on when they take over responsibility for completing the master plan. Because they've purchased this last section of land, or they're buying it, and with that they've purchased the responsibility to do Prospect Road, they've purchased the responsibility to give parkland, and I'm not 100% clear of what other responsibilities they've purchased as part of that purchase agreement.
Can you state your name again real quick?
Alex Martin with Toll Brothers.
Thanks, Alex.
I think to some degree, again, I'm not an attorney either, so from a legal perspective, I can honestly say I poured through the 2002 developers agreement. as well as the framework of what this one will be. Fortunately, unfortunately, there's absolutely no mention of this clubhouse in the developers agreement. But even if there were, Toll Brothers is taking on that burden. So I think the Planning Commission can go on with a clear mind, knowing that if there is specific language called out in that developers agreement that says must be a pool house that is made accessible by all members of Hennepin, however it's spelled out, that's a burden that we are accepting, which includes Prospect Road, our fair share of Eden Prairie Road upgrades. There's some things that we are absolutely burdening. So I really do feel that, while this is a private matter, not a public one, I don't know this is necessarily an enforceable situation, short of it being in developers agreement. It's a private matter, not a public, but I'm not here to judge that. But I just want you to know that our goal is to come in and be as harmonious as we can be. And our goal is to stand behind good, bad, or indifferent things that were promised in the developers agreement. I unfortunately cannot speak for Rhode Island. They are a separate entity. As I kind of illustrated before, I think they've put themselves in a bad spot. But whether or indifferent, whether it is or isn't a developers agreement, I just want to lay out the commitment. Toll Brothers is prepared to adhere to whatever is in the developers agreement. And it's the black and white and the language thereof. So we're prepared to honor that. So I do think the Commission can go forward with a clear mind, knowing that it can be deferred to council or it can be reviewed post this meeting via legal staff, city attorney, staff, and Toll Brothers and ourselves. But again, we're here to do right by all within the scope and scale in which we can. But I just want to go ahead and let everyone know that we're 100% behind the developers agreement. Great, thank you.
Jerry, with that being said, what's your thoughts?
I think the residents of Hennepin Village A have the right to understand clearly what's going to happen, and need to understand what the legal responsibility is that Toll has before they start construction on a new development.
Okay, thank you. Travis, go ahead.
Mr. Chair, is this a question, maybe this is a question for staff, that the city attorney, Rick, would be able to address at council?
That's what I was thinking. That's what I was thinking, too. Is this something that we could stipulate has some review prior to council vote? I think Toll Brothers, Mr. Martin made a strong statement that said they're willing to live up to the obligations of the agreement. None of us are party to every detail, nor necessarily would even understand every detail of the agreement, and maybe that is best left to a legal opinion. And if we could potentially move forward with the stipulation that staff review that with the city attorney prior to it going to council. Mr. Franzen, is that an alternative? Is that possible?
That's doable.
I'm wondering if we want to do that and put that, for lack of a better word, burden onto the city council versus continuing this and doing it at our very next meeting. Any thoughts? Mr. Franzen, do you have a suggestion as well?
The question is, do you want to know the answer before it goes to the council? Or you're comfortable with the answer that comes out as part of the public hearing with the council?
I guess my biggest thing, and I think the other commissioners would say this as well, is just that there is an answer given, because I think the rights of the people, they deserve an answer. And I think they deserve an answer sooner than later. And I'm just wondering if we want to put that onto the city council, or we want to solve it ourselves and then move it forward once we have an answer.
If we place a portion of the motion, it would give the opportunity for the city attorney to review this before the council date, and that would at least, I'm not sure if we would be able to have the answers in front of us and be able to spitball off those answers as more questions and comments came forward without having Rick present with us at that time. And so I guess that would be a question of staffing Rick here for the next council or for the next planning commission meeting, or if it would be allowing him the opportunity to review the information and digest the history of this whole thing. So,
right. Would we be meeting again before the city council hears this?
March 12th, and the city council meeting is March 20th.
Okay, so we could potentially hear this again. Yes, sir. Please come forward. Please state your name, spell your last name.
Duncan Thomason, Tomassen.
Can you give us your address too, Mr. Thompson?
Sure. 10065 Eden Prairie Road and 9988 Vervain Drive in Hennepin Village. Very simple question. I'm getting confused sitting back there listening to all this. And I have one question. Mr. Franzen, does Ryland have an obligation to build 2 pools based on the property they developed, yes or no?
The obligation goes to whoever signed on the line as the developer in the development agreement. Because the first development agreement was with Pemptown for the master agreement. In the subsequent agreements, it may be Pemptown, it may be Pemptown and Ryland, or it could be only Ryland. And so if you want to go back to the original master agreement, that would have been done with Pemptown Land Company. So if that was the first time that there were 2 pools and 2 clubhouses appearing, that would have been in the 2001 or 2002 agreement.
So the answer is we don't know?
I can't give you an answer specifically if it's Ryland or Pemptown under the original agreement, but I'm 99% certain that it was Pemptown on the original agreement.
And what was the scope of Pemptown's commitment from a property perspective?
250 acres. So they have everything from Charleston Road down to Flying Cloud Drive over to Spring Road, and then the 70 acres that's still remaining, which is the topic of conversation tonight, which is Site B. So everything that's built west of the creek was part of Hennepin Village plan, including the office buildings that are over there and the vacant property, which is still zoned for office, plus all the single family and all the townhouses, which are on the other side of the creek, and then this remaining property here, the last 70 acres.
So suffice it to say, I think we need an answer to that very specific question in order to represent the various homeowners in the various communities.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I ask the proponent to come forward for a second? If we were to continue this for another 2 weeks, what was the date again?
March 12th.
And in between that time, your lawyers met with city lawyers and hopefully both agree of whatever's in there, and to come back and discuss that briefly during the second meeting, would you be okay with that?
I guess my first question would be for Mr. Franzen. Would we still be on schedule to meet the May 20th? Would we still be put on the schedule for the May 20th City Council public hearing? Because the issue is in those months is only a single council meeting.
That's why I wanted to get your opinion.
Yeah, we're going to start missing our construction window, which will be an issue.
Understood. Does that keep them on track?
If you direct us to publish for the city council meeting, because the publication notice will come out a day or 2 before, the meeting on the 12th.
I think we can
Just
probably
so that
do
we're all
that.
clear in the room about what the next step in the process is. So if you're making a motion to continue the discussion of this item to the March 12th meeting with direction for staff to publish the item for the March 20th council, whatever you put in the motion, that's what we'll execute.
Okay.
And as long as we're able to stay on track, that's what's important to us.
I understand.
So as long as we're able to do that, we support it. Unfortunately, if not, again, we just believe it's a private issue, not a public one.
It looks like your timeline would still be intact.
Yeah, and that's what's important to us.
So the other question I have, why I've got you up here, commissioners, and just dealing with the 52 lots and the 3 outlets, does anybody have any concerns as far as that goes?
I think it's a good plan.
No?
I might have some questions for staff, but that can be addressed at the
Okay. So it sounds like, just kind of taking a little informative poll, that if we can get the pool thing taken care of and at least satisfy what is in the agreement, I think for the most part you can probably move forward, and I think you'll be okay.
Yeah, I'm not so worried about the scope getting so out of line that it could open itself up, but I guess is the scope going to be narrowed down to, is it a public versus private decision, or is it going to be drilled down to did PEMTON, who was actually was Hennepin Village Limited Partnership, was the original developer on the developers agreement way back in 2002. Did they? Is the scope going to be? Did they or did they not satisfy the requirements of the developers agreement? I guess what I'm concerned about is the room could have another 100 people in it, and other issues could come up that continues to stall the process. I don't want to be difficult, but I'm just concerned.
Yep, I understand. But I guess those same issues can come up with City Council, and they can. What will be, but I know I personally would feel more comfortable if we could get your lawyers, city lawyers together to discuss it, to really lay out, what was in the development agreement, and did everybody meet those obligations, or did they not? What are you still on the hook for? And I think you've already stated that if it comes out that you're on the hook for additional pool or something else, that some agreement will be met.
Right.
And I believe that working with you in the past, that'll get done, so I'm not concerned.
Absolutely.
With that. And Commissioners, do you have any other concerns with that? Yeah, go ahead.
If we're going to be still on task for the council meeting for the 20th, I guess the question would be for the remaining body of this commission is, to what ends do we see that this new information, which I believe to be a private matter in and of itself, would sway or, in other words, change our opinion on the approval or denial of the project?
Questions?
Well, if PEMTON had the original master development agreement, they transferred some responsibilities of that agreement to Ryland Homes when they did the first two phases of the development. And I would guess you're buying this property from PEMTON Development now.
Correct.
And so they're passing on some of those same development requirements that were part of the agreement that they signed off on. And so that's where I think we have a responsibility that exactly whatever that development agreement said is being fully transferred to them as it was to Ryland. And so that's still the public kind of connection before we get to the private connection, I think.
To Jerry's point for staff, are there any other issues that we may need to do some due diligence on, or staff may need to do some due diligence on, that would be confronted at the next continuance at this next Planning Commission meeting, so that we can address those and have our homework done previously? Relating to to Jerry's point, the original developers agreement and its continuity and continuation into the new ownership.
I think the point is, what is there in the original development agreement about pools and clubhouses?
Right.
That seems to be the central point. So what language is in the 2001-2002 agreement that speaks to pools and clubhouses, and what did it show on the plans?
Yep.
Well, my guess is it's going to be generic. It's going to say pool and clubhouses. It's not going to say it belongs to this association or that association, because at the time of the agreement, none of the associations existed.
Mr. Kirk.
That's what I was just vacillating back and forth on my mind, is that it's a good question, and I think there are a lot of people sitting out in the audience that are very interested in the answer, but I'm not sure that it's really going to change the way I vote one way or the other. It would be good to have that clarified. It needs to be clarified. I think the people here in the audience have asked a very good question that we don't have an answer for. But it may change how this has gone about. But to me, I don't see that it would impact whether or not, at least I personally, would vote for or against this project.
Do you see it doing any harm by waiting?
Not really.
Okay.
Not as long as we can stay on the developer's time frame and not impact, not significantly negatively impact the project.
Well, and I think no matter
we have to be very sensitive to that.
Right. No matter how we vote in 2 weeks, it's still going to go to City Council at the same time. So I don't think that's going to change the timeline at all.
As long as that's the case, then I don't have a problem waiting.
As long as we don't continue it again the next meeting, it'll be okay.
Now, the only impact it really does have is we have a timeline to ensure that we submit plans. Obviously, we've gone backwards from a call it June 1st start date. We were planning March 1st to give our engineers a green light to go ahead and start the final plan design. Unfortunately, that's a fairly cost-intensive and time-intensive process. I don't know that we would necessarily start that until we came out of the Planning Commission, at the very least. knowing at least it's going in the right direction. Because obviously, from a risk-benefit analysis, there are concerns that even though it may not affect the timeline directly, it will indirectly for us. It will put us back at least 2 weeks, or at least those 12 days. So it's either a monetary risk on our end, which we burden that by, coming forward. But yeah, there are mitigating circumstances that for us, it does start to sting a little bit.
If I were Mr. Martin, I'd be, just if it can get taken care of now, the next meeting could possibly bring up other unknowns that we're not aware of right now, and I can't anticipate. But
right. And that's one of the concerns that either I think this project has gone through the public vetting process between 2002, again in 2007, and here we are in 2012. My concern is more of a timeline. I'm worried that if other things come up that may or may not be considered public or private, but those questions can't be asked and answered, does that lead to another continuance? And while I absolutely appreciate the good faith and gesture on the Planning Commission, I still think we could go forward at the council and make it a requirement of the council to review this process at that point and present it and have it in a public hearing setting yet again. I know this does put a burden on us quite significantly, and we're the developer, that's part of the process. But
I think your burden is really the same, though, either way, because there's no approval until it goes before the council.
Correct.
So you're stepping out and spending your dollar either way.
Right.
And it's just your business decision that you're making.
Absolutely. My biggest concern is another item that we're not seeing today comes up that can't be asked and answered on the 12th, and it tables again. That pushes us off till, instead of March, we're now in April, then we're in, we backtrack going backwards. And the question is, the risk of this question outweigh the gain of getting the project put forward? And that's, I guess, an internal question, that I can't answer.
I guess I would say getting it right is the most important thing.
Absolutely. So.
Okay.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Yeah, Matt, we'll go to you first.
Yeah, I just would like to kind of affirm what Commissioner Kirk and Travis here had to say. Really just, my primary concern is with making sure that, the issue on the table sounds like we have to ask ourselves, is this going to change our vote in the end? And based on the conversation we've been having so far, I don't see it that really, no matter what we would possibly hear. I agree we need to get all the facts, but we all seem to be in agreement that this development is a good development. We don't really have any major concerns with it. I'm of the opinion I could go either way, really. I would be fine with pushing it to the council for them to make the ultimate determination, given if they were given direction that this pool question were addressed. With that being said, if the commission feels that waiting to hear, pushing it out to the May 12th date and waiting to hear from council and getting an answer to the pool question for us without it significantly harming the project proponent, I don't have an issue with that as well.
Thank you very much. Travis, go ahead.
With some of the concerns that Mr. Martin brought up on other issues coming forward and delaying the project any further, I guess I will ask my question of staff that I was going to delay until until next meeting. You mentioned items number 6 and 11 were for the infrastructure improvements to Eden Prairie Road, and there was mention of the realignment of the curvature of the Eden Prairie Road, which would be north of the Prospect Road intersection. And I also noticed on some of the utility drawings that were in the packet that a lot of the sewer and the water are running down the lines and stubbing into Eden Prairie Road south of the Prospect Road intersection. And I guess my question is, under the developer's agreement that is being put into place, what are the financial responsibilities for the stubs that would be placed upon Eden Prairie Road and the future development of Eden Prairie Road? We've seen in the packet a project on William Small property that's been on there for about a year and a half, in but not scheduled, I think is what its terminology is. And I would imagine that the proponent for that project would be interested to know if he would be needing to bear the entire weight of improvements up to Eden Prairie Road with the stubs being in place and eventually going to be utilizing that for both the sewer and the water and the street infrastructure improvements. So I guess that would be a question that I have.
Well, my memory's not too good. I'm not sure I can remember all that whole question, but I'll attempt to try to answer. The alignment shift that we talked about briefly were just some curves, increasing the radius of the curves that would force the road, the concave portion of the curve to the east, which helps kind of the alignment, and that's going to be dealt with through the process. The developer and their engineer are aware of it. It occurred just a couple days ago, so it's fairly new, but it doesn't impact them dramatically at all from what they've told us. As far as the sewer and water goes, the proponent is proposing to bring in the sewer and water up Eden Prairie Road and into their subdivision, which will serve the balance of properties on the west side of Eden Prairie Road by providing some stubs out to the west at Beverly and their northerly or their southerly street. So those stubs will be provided. We're reanalyzing and relooking at that area to make sure we get the right depth invert of that sewer to make sure we serve everybody to the west adequately. So we're reviewing that, and we should have that in a couple days, and we'll work with the developer and his engineer on that as well. The good news about that is that Toll Brothers has taken on the responsibility of some of that sewer and water extension, which will reduce some of the overall costs for the balance of the benefiting properties to the west, because Toll Brothers is paying for some of that. There'll be some oversizing costs that will credit them, but that's, I think that answered all your questions. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think it does. I just, in the plans, the sewer and water made the detour down Prospect Road, and I didn't see anything that was going down Eden Prairie Road that was connecting up to the stubs, the other two south of that intersection. So I was just curious if that was still part of the developer's agreement with Toll and the city, or if that was something that was a future event that would undergo another future public hearing and public policy.
Well, Eden Prairie Road is a separate project. We will work with the Toll Brothers development and their engineer to adequately look at what they should be building and what we will be building with Eden Prairie Road. There may be some additional sewer and water on Eden Prairie Road than what they show, because to serve some of the properties that directly abut Eden Prairie Road. So there likely will be additional sewer and water on Eden Prairie Road. It's just that we're trying to accommodate the development to the west without burdening them with more than they should. So there will be some additional stuff, but we are looking at that. Eden Prairie Road is a separate project. We will be we will be developing a feasibility study sometime this spring or summer, hopefully spring, and going to the neighborhood, discussing our assessment methodologies that we want to use, and getting feedback, and then bringing that to the council and beginning that process as far as ordering the project and getting that so that we would be ready to build that in late 2013. So that's the plan, and with that feasibility study, there'll be a determination of what the costs are for the various properties in that whole area.
I have the one last item to bring up that I know you don't want to talk about, and that's more on Prospect Road. Right. In the environmental assessment worksheet, it said the City of Eden Prairie is considering closing or rerouting the intersection of Eden Prairie Road and Flying Cloud Drive, and that the 6 alternatives that were reviewed were based on that taking place. Flying Cloud Drive, or Eden Prairie Road being blocked somewhere north of Flying Cloud Drive. And as a result of that study, Prospect Road was deemed to be the most appropriate solution to that of the 6 solutions. A question for Mr. Rue is, if Eden Prairie Road is blocked off north of Flying Cloud Drive, and if Prospect Road is built, does that eliminate any future need for another road to go between Eden Prairie Road and Dell Road?
That would depend. We have several issues. You have severe issues of bringing that over as well. It doesn't necessarily have to go that way if you get Prospect Road, but what we would want to do is make sure that the developments in that area west of Eden Prairie Road would be interconnected so that we minimize the cul-de-sacs and dead-end streets that would be in there. So, for example, there may be some interconnecting streets on that. If you're looking at that exhibit in EAW, there might be some interconnecting streets between Beverly and that other east-west road, alternative number 2. There could be some other roads in there that would interconnect. So to answer your question specifically, Prospect Road is in lieu of those connections over to Dell Road, but it wouldn't necessarily say that it would never be done, but Prospect would accommodate the 2 ways in and out of that neighborhood as long as you got some interconnecting streets within those developments.
When you say out of that neighborhood, you're talking about the Beverly Road, Sky Lane kind of neighborhood?
Right, yeah. We had a couple weeks ago, we had another development where we were looking at a road going through East-West Road. So what we'll try to do as those developments come in is attempt to get those road system in there that has some interconnections that will allow for multiple ways in and out of all those neighborhoods.
Okay. The reason I asked the question is because I went back to the City Council meeting minutes from May 1st, 2007, and Councilmember Aho stated that he thought the access of Eden Prairie Road to Highway 212, it was still 212 at that time, is a separate issue, and we don't have to make that decision tonight. Basically saying we didn't have to make the decision at that time on whether or not to close Eden Prairie Road. And the whole environmental assessment worksheet was based on the assumption of closing Eden Prairie Road. So my concern is that the whole decision that was made back at that time was based on the whole focus that Prospect Road is part of this development, when in fact the whole study was done based on closing Eden Prairie Road, a totally separate kind of, not totally separate, but a somewhat separate kind of issue.
Well, with the Prospect Road decision, if you will, the closure of Eden Prairie Road on the south end became much more practical because it's, as you noticed on those other alternatives, 3, 4, and 5, that's the only way to really, or those are 3 of the alternatives that we looked at to provide an extension of Eden Prairie Road to the south, all the way down to Flying Cloud Drive. And all those were probably 3 to 4 times more expensive, not including the right-of-way, which we'd be buying a couple homes and significant amounts of property. So those would be significantly more expensive, and you basically have the same type thing with a lot of grading and still steep slopes. There's still in excess of 10% grades on all those roads.
No, my big concern is just that in 2007, the people who came forward who were really concerned about the study were the people who were in the Beverly Drive area. And they were very concerned about connecting Beverly Drive to Turnbull Road. And I just don't want to be in a position where 5 years from now or something, we've built Prospect Road, we've closed off Eden Prairie Road, and then we still come back to those people and say, you know, we're going to put a road through here on Beverly Drive onto Turnbull Road. Because they were adamant about their whole reason for wanting Prospect Road to go in was because they didn't want their road going through their community.
Right.
And I'm concerned that there's still going to, no matter how many roads, how many Prospect roads we build, if we close off Eden Prairie Road, we're still going to want to eventually build a road between Eden Prairie Road and Dell Road.
Well, there's quite a bit of environmental issues over there as well with a very deep ravine that you'd have to cross. I think there's some Indian mounds back in that area as well. So
they were primarily in the south part, though, not the straight to the west.
But Turnbull is also not a public street. It's partially public. There's some dedication of right-of-way through there, but most of that's a private road. So that's an area that I don't think it's likely that it'll ever happen. At this time, it was one of the options to look at, but I don't see it happening. But as long as we have some interconnections of all the other streets in there, that's what we need.
Okay, if we can make those interconnections, I'm more satisfied with it, and I think we need to make it very clear to the council that this is a commitment to close Eden Prairie Road, because Councilmember Aho felt that was a pending issue.
Yep.
And all of this builds around that.
Right, exactly. That was the reason for the AW at the time.
Can I come up and talk for a second?
Please, go ahead.
Look,
If you would wait, sir, until you get up to... Sir, if you would wait till you get back to the microphone, that would be great. Please state your name, spell your name.
Brad Pester, P as in Peter, E-S-T-E-R. I live in Site A. We've been round and round with this. We have to go back to 1955 when I was in Shakopee at the drag races, and then we used to go up to Eden Prairie Road after the drag races and through Dead Man's Curve up to the top and did our drag racing there. And Eden Prairie, the southeast or southwest portion of Eden Prairie, is the last to be developed. You guys had easements on all the property that looked over what is now Flying Cloud Drive, but you allowed people to build in there, in between the burial mounds. You allowed people to put multi-million-dollar homes that faced Dell Road up in the hills, and then also had access to Flying Cloud Drive. You painted yourself into a corner because you did not. You had easement rights and you passed on them all. And so now it comes to Mayor Larson and Herr Dietz of the. In fact, who is the new? Who's the new Dietz in this whole deal? Okay, I mean, all of us in Site A, that's where I live, Site A. And so Prospect Road is extremely important to me. Not because that it is not inevitable, but by the virtue of the fact that if you now are reconsidering closing off Eden Prairie Road in the south, you're number one making the world's longest cul-de-sac, and now Prospect Road is going to be the only way out if you want to go south. So what you're going to do is you're going to come up to Prospect Road, you're going to go Prospect Road to Spring Road, which is also a bone of contention and should be, we're talking about straightening out roads. You damn well better straighten out Spring Road as it comes down and around to Prospect, because when people come by there at 60 miles an hour, and we've got our little children from Site A that are going over to the swimming pool, there's where you're going to have your accidents and your problems. I can't even believe that you're bringing up the fact that you're going to close off just so you can say that you've taken care of the problem at Dead Man's Curve. Well, it sure seems to me that what you're doing is all you're doing is circling them out. You're going to go down Spring Road from Prospect, down to Flying Cloud, right there at the Lion's Tap, and you're going to go then right past Eden Prairie Road that's closed off in order to get to Valley Fair or to Shakopee or to Chaska or wherever. This is unconscionable. Thank God for Toll Brothers, because Toll Brothers has eliminated about two-thirds, I would guess, right? Two-thirds of the density of your project from what Ryland had. That's a good thing. But there's going to be future development there. And we've heard all, I mean, Herr Dietz and Larson and their turnip truck, and fortunately none of us fell off. All these other alternatives. I mean, is an alternative that sends you south an alternative for Eden Prairie Road, which is really your true problem? Your problem isn't Prospect Road. That just takes you out to Spring Road. And then you got to turn left, and you're going to end up right at the intersection at Pioneer Trail that's bottlenecked already. This whole thing has to be rethought, and it's so disappointing. I kept my mouth shut until you start talking about cul-de-sacing Eden Prairie Road in the south. That's just There's just no way. And Herdietz and Larson promised all the multimillionaire ladies over on Dell Road that, no, don't worry, we're not going to bother your area. Of course it's environmentally more expensive to go all of those other areas other than Prospect Road. That was a foregone conclusion. You didn't need to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on environmental impacts statements to know that. I mean, the golf course and the golf course and the ski hill, they have already taken out thousands of trees so that Prospect Road could, no big deal. So please, don't go back to this closing off Eden Prairie Road. Do what you should have done in 1960 or 1970 and put Flying Cloud Drive from the Lions Tap down to where we turn into Shasta and put that dang thing back where it belongs. And right now, if you were to have an 18-wheeler and a fire truck try to pass each other on Eden Prairie Road, you couldn't do it. That's not even as wide as a regular, normal residential street. It's a county road. And it hasn't been paved since 1950.
Can I just respond to you for a moment, sir? You're looking very directly at me.
Yes, I am. And because you were the guy who said we're going to close off.
No, I'm the guy that's questioning the decision that people assumed was made 5 years ago to close off Eden Prairie Road. And I'm saying that I don't think the city council members were aware that that's the supposition that's been in place for 5 years. And I'm wondering if everybody really realizes that that's what Mr. Dietz and Mr. Gray and others had assumed was going to take place and had been put into place through this environmental assessment worksheet. And the city council, I don't think, clearly understood that that was an assumption that was made at the time that this was talked about 5 years ago.
Well, so when we came out of that meeting, I talked to Brad Aho, and he said, this really doesn't make a whole hell of a lot of sense, does it? So he knew at that time, and he's still on the council, right?
And that's why I brought up his statement in the meeting minutes from May 1st, 2007, because it was clear that he thought that that was not a made decision. But other people around here have assumed that that is a done decision, that we're going to close off Eden Prairie Road. And so, sir, I am trying to encourage others to consider reevaluating that assumed decision of closing off Eden Prairie Road.
Keep doing it.
Okay.
Do you have any comments?
Yeah, I guess I'll make a comment. Thanks for goading me into it. I think in my mind, the point of this is not to discuss whether or not we're going to close off Eden Prairie Road, because that's not on the table today.
Right.
And I think the point is that, and the point that I think I'm reemphasizing what our chairman said earlier, to make sure that we don't have any surprises if we do choose to continue this. I think I'll state my position that I have not seen anything in this plan or discussed tonight that would change what I feel the decision has been made by the council, or would cause me to vote against the decision that I believe has been made by the council relative to Prospect Road. And that's independent of the issue of Eden Prairie Road or not, because I remember the final argument that convinced me to vote for Prospect Road back 5 years ago was made by our fire chief, and relative to access into I believe it's the Site A part of Hennepin Village and the necessity for that. And that is an independent decision from whether or not Eden Prairie Road is open or closed. And I think that I'd like to at least go on record here so that we don't get into an issue if we come back with a continuance that I don't see anything that would change, in my mind, change that decision and cause me to vote differently relative to Prospect Road.
Okay. Well, where the whole decision about Prospect Road is based on this environmental assessment worksheet, and it was predicated on closing Eden Prairie Road. I think it's flawed and that the City Council didn't really clearly understand it in 2007. And there weren't really any other alternatives prepared for Hennepin Village A alternative access. That there was some minor discussion with Metropolitan Airport Commission where they called back and they said, you know, yeah, we're not going to allow a road on our property. Well, since that time, they've installed runway lights on their own property, and they've installed a temporary access or a maintenance access road that gets halfway to what we would need for a permanent emergency access to get to Site A. Now, I see you're shaking your head, but also, as was stated earlier, the development A has been there for 10 years, and we haven't done anything about it. We've had other developments where we created cul-de-sacs where we said, you know, we really should put a road through here. We just did that 6 weeks ago. And that was in response to an agreement between homeowners and a developer. And here, I don't think I see any homeowners who say, you know, we have to build Prospect Road. I don't see any homeowners on either side of Eden Prairie Road who are saying we have to build Prospect Road. This is the city saying we have to build Prospect Road. And so, you know, if you really look at options on how to get to Hennepin Village A, I think there is some type of option that could be discussed further with the Metropolitan Airport Commission. You could also look at this study that the engineering firm did on how you access Hennepin Village A off of Spring Road, that they talked about improving the sight lines there so that it would be safe for those couple of turns that you make. You could even do things of changing some of the landscaping and create an emergency access lane where fire trucks could drive up on a sidewalk in the case of if there was some blockage there to get around those corners. Another option you could even look at is sprinklering half of the houses that are in Hennepin Village A. You can retrofit houses now for about $5,000 a house with sprinkler system. You only have to do half the houses because you could do a checkerboard style system that would protect every house from passing fire from one house to another. There's lots of different things that could be considered. You could take the $750,000 that these people will spend on Prospect Road and you could put it into an expansion of the swimming pool on the other side of Spring Road for the people here, and you make a whole lot of people very happy. So there's lots of different things that could be considered, but I'll leave it up to everyone else.
Closing comments, sir.
In the creation of the environmental assessment worksheet, I believe that staff and the engineers and every entity that was involved in the drafting and finalization of that worksheet spent a lot of hours and put a lot of due diligence into the full scope and the macro scale thinking of this entire Prospect Road area. And I see the Prospect Road as a separate issue outside of the development of the home sites in this area. I mean, it's something that was already established and already approved of by City Council. Back in the day, it was heavily debated by memberships on both sides of Eden Prairie Road and both sides of the aisle, respectively. And at that time, I remember hearing, well, I wasn't here, but I was in the audience, remember hearing a lot of pros for the expansion, including the fire chief who is here tonight, and including other people and interested parties on every avenue and every way of, you know, the cycle of how this was going to progress. So my decision, I do not believe, would be swayed between tonight and what seems to be the pulse of a continuance of the majority of the body of this commission. I feel that the continuance is basically something to appease our knowledge of the legalese of what's transpiring between two private entities. I don't believe that the government should really get involved unless there is some reason between a past developer's agreement with the past developer and with someone that is assuming that risk and that project. So you will hear what my expression is when I vote, but I do not think that tonight's buzzword of Prospect Road is something that's needing to be debated when it comes to this project. It's something that's already been established and approved.
Thank you. I'll allow 2 more comments to come from the audience, and sir, from the back row, you can be number 1. Please come forward. Again, can you say your name, spell your last name for us, and tell us your comments, please? Thank you.
Ross Ostell, it's Kostelliz. And there's a couple of things. Prospect Road and Spring Road. I'm a retired school teacher. I got a granddaughter. I got 50 hours at the pool. 50 hours at the pool. I walk across that area. That is the worst intersection there is for kids, for anybody. And you're going to have more cars coming through there. These kids are going across. We have no other place but to go walk across that road. And I am the guy that got those extra signs out. I've been pushing. I talked to the commissioner and all of them. They all know me by name, and I go after them because I said, why don't we put lights out there? Why don't we do things? Because cars are coming. They don't stop at that area. So now we're going to have more traffic coming, and it's a bad turn in there. So, so I'm saying is we shouldn't have more traffic in there. We shouldn't have more traffic. In the wintertime, the snow plowing, who's the guy that gets a hold of them to come and get all the snow pushed off? I and the head man for the county know each other by first names. And I'm the guy getting it pushed back so you can see the sight lines and so forth so that you don't get hit. You have to go way out to look. Now we don't have any snow. Try last year. Try the year before. So those are important. We got a lot more kids in Hennepin Village, in that little south area. We got a lot of kids. Big trucks, cars coming. We got hills. I walk that area. I know the whole thing. Those hills and that, and those cars are going to be coming from the other side, 50, 55, 60. Is there going to be Eden Prairie Police Chief there watching? No. And the fire marshal, I'm not going to go against him because he knows what he's doing. You tell me that a rig, how's the rig? Because right now we don't have any but one access. And how's the rig going to come in? You mean the rig's going to come down way over, down Eden Prairie Road, and then come down this way to come in? No, they're coming down Spring Road, and that bad corner to go right over the grass and whatnot. That's where they're coming. So why do we need the other exit for? We don't need it. We don't need it. I think they have to take a good look at it. And the swimming pool, as I said again, was promised to us. I saw the plans. I was right there. When I paid for everything, they said, you have a swimming pool up on the hill up there. And we go to the one across the street on those hot days when I go with my granddaughter, there's 80, 90 kids. That's it. That's, I mean, you can't, so I think we have to take a good look at it. And a company coming in like this, they got millions of dollars. What's $400,000 for a pool? That's like me having two, I mean, it's nothing. I mean, so why couldn't they say, hey, we'll put this pool on your side? Well, that's one thing they can do. And the next thing is not build that road. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll entertain one more comment before we need to move on. Is there anybody that has anything else more to add? Okay. Commissioners, before we move forward, I would like to kind of take an informal vote, if you will, on whether I think the two options basically tonight are either to continue this for another 2 weeks or we could make a motion to pass it and move on. So with that being said, Matt, what would you vote for tonight? I guess, or you could say no to the project in total.
Well, as I stated earlier, I don't have any real issues with the project itself as presented. I'm under the assumption right now, which I think is somewhat the issue, that the development agreement is going to be followed to the T, and I have no doubt, based on past history with previous developments, that all due diligence is done to make sure that that is the case, and I have no doubt that that will be the case with this project. That being said, as I stated earlier, given that I have no real issues with passing it tonight and pushing the legal decisions that need, or the legal answers that need to be found out to the council, I should say. But that being said, if I also would entertain a continuance if it does not adversely harm the project proponent to a significant degree.
Well, I think at this time, I'm going to hold one more second. So I think we've said, at least as far as the timeline goes, that we still could do a continuance tonight and still meet all the deadlines, and the proponent would still be okay with that from what I'm understanding. Is that correct? You can just...
We prefer to go to council.
You prefer to go to council, okay. But as far as timeline goes, they would still be okay. So with that being said, Matt, what would you do?
I'm sympathetic to the concerns of the residents here, and I don't see any issues with having a continuance.
Okay, so you would vote for a continuance?
Yes.
Okay. Travis, what would you vote for?
I have mentioned a lot of the concerns that I had as to the continuance that is being addressed on the table right now. I believe that something that's between private entities is something that is not necessarily needing government intervention, and that if there is anything that is between the city and the previous proponent and the assumption by toll of that previous developer's agreement and the drafting of a new one would be hashed out over the legalese before council, and so I would be in approval of going forward.
Move forward. Okay, thank you. Mr. Kirk?
Solely to me, I would probably go forward with it with the stipulation that the residents' questions are answered prior to a council vote, but I would be accepting of a continuance as well.
So I'm going to hold you to that. So am I hearing continuance, or am I hearing move forward?
A slight preference to move forward.
And I should say that's where I lie to as well, Commissioner Kirk, because I have a slight preference to move forward, but if there is a strong will.
Commissioner?
I'd prefer continuance.
My vote would be for a continuance as well. So I'm trying to get us together.
I think we've got 2, 1, and 2 halves.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to figure it out. Mr. Commissioner Kirk, what say ye?
I will accept the continuance.
Okay.
As will I.
All right. Very good. So with that being said, I will entertain a motion. And let's be clear on the motion. And you can ask city staff for support if you'd like.
Mr. Chairman, move to recommend a continuance to the March 12, 2012 meeting and direct the staff to publish the project for the March 20th City Council meeting.
Any concerns by anybody? We have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
A motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. All right, so we will move on. I think at this time I'll give a 5-minute recess to clear the chambers, and we'll move on in 5 minutes. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. We will continue with the Planning Commission meeting this day, February 27th. The next item on the agenda is the New Horizons Academy. Location is southeast corner of Dell Road and Linwood Court. The request is for planned unit development concept review on 1.17 acres, a planned unit development review, district review with waivers and zoning district. Amendments in the neighborhood commercial zoning district on 1.17 acres, and a site plan review on 1.17 acres. With that being said, with the proponent of the project, please come forward and tell us a little bit about that. Also, would you state your name, spell your last name for city records?
Yes,
Thank you.
Peter Hilger, Rylar LLC, the architect representing New Horizon.
Can you spell your last name, sir?
Hilger. Do you wish me to go over the project in detail?
You can go over as much detail as you want. If you head over to that area right there, there's a camera up in the ceiling that will shine down. And you're welcome to give us as much or as little detail as you would like.
Okay.
After what we just went through, I'm sure it'll be just fun. Thank you very much.
Yes. Well, what I wanted to basically request or discuss is a proposal to build roughly a...
And speak right into that microphone so the TV audience can hear you as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
What we're proposing to do is to build a just under 10,000 square foot child care center on the Dell Road side next to the fire station. This property is currently owned by the city. We have entered into a purchase agreement to acquire the property from the city. It's what I would call a pad-ready site, so it has already been developed with a basically grading in place, ready to be developed. What's being proposed, is this showing up here on your screen?
It will. Just hold it up right there. There you go.
Okay, got it. Let me just, excuse me one moment, please. Okay. Basically, what we're proposing to do is, right now we have, Dell Road is over on this portion of the property right now. Intersection with a signal is located right here. Linwood Court runs around this portion of the property. We've actually been looking at this site for quite some time now. And once we got some survey issues worked out and some initial site planning, we came up with a solution to propose a main entrance driveway located here and here opposite the two driveways that currently serve the townhomes, with a parking lot in this particular location, the primary building structure located right here, and play areas located around the perimeter of the property for the two age groups that basically use those, the toddlers and the preschoolers. The fire station is currently located in this position right here. The edge of the parking lot is located right here. And then the rain garden that services the fire station, part of the fire station drainage is located right here with an existing ditch that runs along this portion of the property and flows into the existing pond. This is a picture of what the existing pond looks like today. It looks like a pond. You can see the edge of the pad grading right here and the very corner of the fire station located right here. This is a view of that drainage swale between the fire station here, right alongside our property line, which basically runs right through here. and then this will be where the child care center would be located. The requirements that were set forth by the city for the development of this property was to make the building compatible with the fire station. As much as I know that all the kids would love to play in a fire station, we can't mimic it completely, but this is what the existing fire station looks like right now, and what we are proposing is a structure, all disheveled here. One moment, please. We're proposing is a structure that in some respects mimics the tower element of the fire station, but does not go so high as your hose tower. Uses a palette of residential materials that are consistent with the fire station. In other words, we're proposing to match the two bricks that are currently used on the fire station as the base and as sort of the field here, with a tower element that actually will house our mechanical equipment right here. So it's like a little penthouse that's open to the elements that would contain all the mechanical equipment with a blue roof on it. And then the main entrance, this is viewed from the parking lot. The main entrance would be located right here under a canopy. Basically a fairly low-pitched roof, a slightly lower pitch than what the residential townhomes are to just across the street. So our intent was to develop a plan that was consistent with the residential character of the neighborhood, sort of brought those elements in, but at the same time respected the materials of the fire station. So for that reason, we are planning, or the mandate is to use the same materials. The two bricks that are used on the fire station are basically, this is the existing brick right now, which is the field. This is the existing brick right now, which is the lighter color. We're planning to match those. The drainage for the property is perhaps the one issue that's most significant and which we're continuing to work with the city engineering staff on. But this particular pond, what we're proposing to do in order to fit our development on this parcel, and because this is part of our parcel, we're asking to redesign the pond to basically create an infiltration area using pervious pavement along this gray shaded area that would then eventually drain into the pond. So all of the sheet drainage from the parking lot will flow into this infiltration area before flowing into the pond, as well as picking up the drainage from the roof and from the hard surface play areas around here connecting and through the drainage system. So that's how we're proposing to manage the stormwater on this particular site. I do want to point out that currently this is the ditch that services the rain garden from the fire station right now, and for some reason or another, I don't know what the issue is, but the easement to drain this from the fire station to the pond was never created by the city, even though it's a city property. So we know that as a result of doing this development, we're going to have to modify or actually create the original easements for this parcel that should have been created when it was first platted. And so anyway, that's just a little housekeeping item, but we are proposing to reduce the easement for the parking lot here, expand the easement on this portion to allow the fire station drainage to use the pond, which was originally intended to do. Okay. Let me go back to the site plan. Okay. We'll actually go to the landscape plan. The landscaping plan, we just found out, as the staff report was just delivered to us earlier this week, that we're a little bit deficient on the required tree calipers. I believe that's in the staff report that you have. We based it on the one-story building, and I guess the ordinance interprets this as a two-story building, even though we don't have a second story. So we understand that you're making a requirement to add additional trees for this particular parcel. We are proposing for one sort of, I guess, a variance, but a PUD waiver, thank you. PUD waiver for a couple of elements. One is for location of signage. What we're proposing in this particular corner right here is sort of as the landscaped corner of our parcel to put a very low wall, similar to what you have in other locations within the city, that would just have a very simple sign on the bottom, New Horizon Academy. The balance of the signage, so it would be no pylon or anything like that, or not pylon, monument sign. Other than this, because the way the ordinance currently exists, that would be in the middle of the playground, and we can't have that signage within the middle of the playground. And then the rest of the signage would be located on the building itself. The building, organizationally, won't spend too much time on it, but our main entrance is facing towards the plan north here. We have basically all age groups served: infants, toddlers, preschoolers, and then a large motor school age room located in this corner. So it serves a variety of children's age groups. With that, we've provided, again, I've sort of provided the elevations. We have one sign area located here facing out towards Dell Road. And then we have another sign area facing over towards Linwood right here. Just that would be a simple can sign on the building identifying New Horizon. So with that, I believe I'm really more than willing to answer questions. We've provided a sort of a summary to you, which I'm sure you've seen. I'm really here to answer any questions.
If we have any questions, we'll get back to you. Thank you very much. Well done in your presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Franzen, you want to take us through the staff report, please?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Before the city purchased the property, it was owned by Kurt and Dwayne Delegard. They had an approval, a zoning approval and site plan approval in 1995 to build a gas station, a 5,000 square foot restaurant, and 12,000 square feet of retail. So when the city came in to put in the fire station, that approval went away. One of the issues that was brought up at that meeting was what was the use going to be on the corner. The city had made some commitments that we weren't going to have a gas station in the corner. So we have a daycare with this proposal. We think that's the correct use for the property. We are recommending approval according to the recommendations which are on page 3 of the staff report.
Thank you very much. I think as far as this goes, I think it's a neat little project myself. Yeah. I think the land use is pretty good for this too. Like it. I think I think it's a great thing. So with that being said, this is a public hearing. Is anyone out in the audience that has any comments or concerns? Yes, sir. Please come forward. State your name for city record, please. Spell your last name.
Yeah, my name is John Blyfuss. It's B-L-E-I-F-U-S-S. And I live at 17980 Linwood Court. And I'm probably going to be more affected by this than anybody else because I'm directly across the street from the entrance. I've been in Hawthorne Carriage Homes since 1995, and there's been a lot of speculation as to what's going in there. We were initially concerned about the firehouse, but turned out that the fire department were very good neighbors. We were very pleased with what they did. The rest of the property could have been anything, like Mr. Franzen said, restaurant, convenience store, anything else. And my personal feeling is what they want to do right now is good. It's probably the best use of that land. Look at a daycare center is going to be closed on weekends. Convenience store is going to be open on weekends. We'll be getting more traffic, more noise, more other issues that come along with that. So I see you've already recommended approval of this, and I would like to second that.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your comments. Is there anybody else out in the audience that has any comments or concerns? Commissioners, yes. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I just have one comment for Mr. Hilger, and I'm just disappointed that there isn't a need for more stone on your building, because we changed our quality material requirement, that you wouldn't need natural stone now, you could use cast stone.
You know, I remember that, Jerry. It was right here in this room, and you guys couldn't tell the difference between the real and the cast stone, so I appreciate the initiative, but I also recognize that you wanted to match the fire station, and that was a criteria, and we're fine with that.
Oh, you did a good job, thanks.
We got a little stone, right? A little bit.
Cast stone.
This question may be for staff. Academically, what is the reasoning behind allocating or putting this into a second story, as far as the proponent mentioned caliber trees and the second story requirement?
Goes to the definition in our code book related to building size and building height. And basically what we put in the staff report was a direct quote out of the city code. So this basically was done, I think, for a lot of the large warehouse buildings that we had that were 24 to 30 feet in height. And we were concerned about the building mass, so you wanted to have enough landscaping to kind of soften the views of the larger, more massive, taller buildings. So that's why we had that I guess, little sort of a footnote in the code on one-story buildings. Now, they don't really have to add more trees. If they wanted to make some of the trees larger in diameter, or if they wanted to raise the height of some of the conifers, they can accomplish that in any way that they choose to.
Did I answer your question?
No, it's just an academic question.
Okay, very good. Okay. If I'm not seeing any other concerns from anyone out in the audience, I will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, move to close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion second. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Sure, I got the right one. Mr. Chairman, move to recommend approval of the Plan Unit Development Concept Review on 1.17 acres, Plan Unit Development District Review with waivers and zoning district amendment in the Neighborhood Commercial Zoning District on 1.17 acres, and site review on 1.17 acres based on the plan stamp dated February 17, 2012, and the staff report dated February 24, 2012.
Second.
The motion second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Congratulations. Move forward with the project. It's a great little project. Thank you very much for bringing it. With that being said, Mr. Franzen, plan reports.
Yes, I have one item for you this evening. The City Council is looking for a representative and an alternate to serve on the Community Advisory Committee for the Southwest LRT. And we included a copy of the charter and all the responsibilities to go with that, so you could use that in your a factor in your decision making as to whether or not you wanted to be the main member or an alternate. And we need to pass on this information for the City Council. They want to make some appointments to this committee at the March 6th City Council meeting.
So if they are interested, if there's any parties that are interested, they can just contact you directly via email?
Tell me right now if you're interested.
Okay.
I'm interested.
So am I.
As am I.
There you go.
All right.
I'm Russell.
I'm
out of town too much.
That's to say.
I will pass it on, and we have 3 interested parties, and the council will make their decision.
Okay.
Then, just to let you know, I'm currently working with the Sacramento Rapid Transit District on upgrades to their light rail system. I've worked with the Denver Rapid Light Rail System, and I work with the Washington, D.C. subway system.
So you're saying you're qualified? You do have a little background. Excellent. Thank you very much. Okay. Anything else, Mr. Franzen?
Yes. For the March 12th meeting, in addition to the continuance, we are going to review a subdivision of the Flying Cloud landfill. And
I'm sorry, review of the Flying Cloud.
The landfill.
Okay.
The MPCA wants to take ownership of the landfill, so they can do their remedial action plan, which means they fix the drainage, they fix the methane gas system. So what the city's doing is creating a large parcel for the MPCA to own. We're creating a 24-acre parcel for Allied to retain, which is basically where they have their fleet fueling facility that you looked at a month and a half or 2 months ago, and for their transfer station. And then once that has been completed and they get the money from the legislature to go ahead with the plan, then the MPCA will be back in front of the city with an open house to tell the city and the residents what their plan is, how long it's going to take, et cetera. What we want the MPCA to do is to come to the meeting, talk about what their plan is, because if we're inviting neighbors to learn about the subdivision, they should know about what is going to be happening with the landfill. So they will just be making kind of a preview of coming attractions.
Very good.
Just as an aside, I saw the Hopkins landfill program made the Channel 11 news tonight. Discussion of what they're doing and what the implications of that are to the residents around that landfill.
What's a hot topic? Interesting. Okay. Very good. Mr. Franz, anything else?
That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Any members' reports for tonight? Any continuing business? Any new business? If not, I will entertain a motion for adjournment.
Move to adjourn. Second.
The motion is second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Meeting adjourned.